Welcome to the Audio Inc. Radio podcast, featuring interviews with the biggest names in rock and metal, hosted by Anne Erickson.
Get inked. Visit Facebook.com/Audio Inc. Radio, Twitter.com/Audio Inc. Radio, and AudioIncRadio.com for more ink. Whew, that's a lot of ink. It's AudioIncRadio.com.
Well, hey, welcome to the latest episode. It's Anne Erickson on Audio Inc. Radio. And hey, first of all, I want to thank you for hanging out with me. You really are the best. And I love it. I love hanging out on the podcast, doing the show, and sharing with you this great music, talking with different rock stars, and knowing that you are with me and you are a part of it. So thanks for hanging out. And what's really cool is that over time, over the years of doing this sort of thing, interviewing musicians and being in radio and being in music journalism or whatever you want to call it. But sometimes people start to recognize you and they're like, oh, hey, what's up, Anne? Which is really cool. Like one recent one is Lizzie Hale of Hailstorm, because the poor lady, she's had to be interviewed by me so many different times. I can't even tell you. So it was funny because it was last year. I think I interviewed her maybe 3 times. And the third time I said, I'm so sorry, Lizzie, you're stuck with me again. And she was so sweet. She's like, I love it when you interview me. We have a great, chemistry now. And like we know each other. And so she was really great about it. But another person that I tend to interview a lot, which is great because he's amazing, is Richie Faulkner from Judas Priest. I remember interviewing him at Louder Than Life Festival in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm trying to remember how many years ago. It was a while ago, but it was in person, and he kind of serenaded my friend Rebecca and myself at this event. It was cool because I had an in-person interview. It was just us, and Rebecca came in, and he ended up playing on guitar for us a little bit. It was so cool. Just really nice, down-to-earth guy and extremely talented. He brings so much to Judas Priest. And of course, he had the health scare recently, which was, he could have died from it, which was absolutely mind-blowing and just really scary. But thanks to God, he is kicking. He is doing well and all of that good stuff. So very excited to have Richie Faulkner back on the show. And it's funny because the whole reason I brought up that story is that when he first got on the phone with me here before I started recording, he was like, Anne, it's so good to talk to you again. How are you doing? Like he totally remembered me. And that was really nice to hear. So very cool stuff. But Richie Faulkner is on because he is in a new metal supergroup, Elegant Weapons. Really awesome. If you love classic metal like Judas Priest, you're going to love this band. They've got members of Rainbow, Uriah Heep, and Accept all in their lineup. And they just released a new record, Horns for a Halo, via Nuclear Blast. Awesome group. Check it out. And we're going to talk with him about Elegant Weapons and, of course, what's going on with Judas Priest. All right. If you don't subscribe to the podcast yet, shame on you. Do it right now. You can just search Anne Erickson on Audio Inc. wherever you listen to podcasts. Hit subscribe and you'll be instantly notified of the next show featuring the biggest names in rock and metal music. And hey, I would love to hear from you. Link up with me on social media. I promise I don't bite. Usually. You can find me on social media. Basically head to my website, itsmeanne.com. That's itsmeanne.com. itsmeanne.com to link up on all of my social media. And if you aren't a member of the private Patreon community yet, please do that. You'll find some extras, goodies up there, and you'll have access to my private Patreon page. All right, let's do it. A great chat right now with Richie Faulkner from Judas Priest and Elegant Weapons.
Hi there, this is Richie Faulkner from Judas Priest and Elegant Weapons, and you're listening to Audio Inc. Radio with Anne Erickson.
Richie, it's awesome to have you back. We were just talking before I started recording about it's been a while since we've talked. So yeah, it's really cool to talk with you again.
You too. I was just saying, it's some exciting stuff going on. We were saying we've got some time off from Priest, and there's some self-inflicted stuff going on with Elegant Weapons. So I can't stay off the road for too long. I need to get back out on it and get on the road, put out some music. And so, yeah, that's what we're doing. So exciting times ahead for Elegant Weapons.
Oh, yeah, I know. I love it. And Elegant Weapons is such a unique project. So tell me, how did all of this come together?
Well, I've been in Priest for around 10 years at the time that this kind of all got focused together. And it felt like it was during the COVID pandemic, really, that I could kind of draw a line under the Priest stuff. We'd written, most of the Priest stuff had been written, so all the creative stuff had been done for that. So and I had some time, we weren't going out, there were lockdowns. I had some time to explore the ideas that I had. And I'm always writing, I'm always creating, I'm always putting down melodies and song ideas and stuff like that. So it was kind of going through the files and seeing what I've put in those files over the last few years. And as I said, I had the time to do that, and I didn't, we didn't need anything else for Priest. So it was a perfect time, really, during the pandemic to sift through those ideas and see what I had. And I've always been conscious of the fact that Priests aren't going to be around forever. I had a conversation with Glenn Tipton right at the beginning of when I joined the band, and he said, the band's not going to be around for 25 years. We know where they are in their career. I mean, I joined on the Epitaph tour, which was supposed to be the farewell tour. Luckily, it wasn't. Luckily, we're still here. You know what I mean? Luckily, Priest is still here. But point being, it was a conscious thing, really. It was from then on, really, that I had to kind of think, well, what am I going to do when Priest are no longer here? I thought it was going to be the last tour, so I need to think about what I'm going to do after this. And luckily, as I said, 10 years later, 13 years later now, we're still here. But it was always a conscious thing to be thinking about what I'm going to be doing after. So all those things came into play during the pandemic, and I put it together and put a few songs together. It was a few songs, and it was maybe, I've got an EP or an album, have I got a band, have I got a touring band, and it went from there, really. And called up a few friends and got them on the record and went from there. That's basically what it was. It was very kind of organic in that sense.
Yeah, I love that. But first of all, now you've depressed me because you say that Judas Priest, there will be a world without Judas Priest, which I don't want to hear.
I know it's a sad thing to think about, but it's one of those things, But the good thing is that, myself, Ronnie Romero, who sings in the band, Christopher Williams, who plays drums, Davey Rimmer, we're all from legacy bands, Rainbow, Accept, Uriah Heep, Priest, and we feel like we can carry the torch, if that's the right expression to use. We all come from legacy bands. We got chosen by these legacy bands to play with them and hopefully carry that torch into the future. So, nothing lasts forever, but hopefully we can take the DNA of those bands into the future and the next generation.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And I was actually going to ask, what kind of audience do you think Elegant Weapons would appeal to? Do you think it's the Judas Priest crowd, like the heavy metal crowd, or melodic rock?
I think up until this point, we've put a couple of songs out there, and it seems to be that audience. Yeah. It was a priority, really, to have a band that evolves and grows and puts out new records and plays live and evolves the character of the musicians in it. So I think obviously we come from those bands, and we might appeal to the fans of those bands. But as we move forward into the future, who knows? Who knows what influences we take on, and how the band evolves, and as a consequence, how the audience changes. We don't know, and that's one of the exciting things about it.
Yeah, you mentioned calling up some friends and getting them on the record. Would that perhaps be Rex Brown and Scott Travis?
It would be indeed, yes. I mean, I'm incredibly fortunate and blessed, really, to have those guys on the record, obviously along with Ronnie Romero. But I've always kind of promised Scott that if I did anything outside of Priest, he would get first refusal. And he was able to play on the record. And I called Rex as well. I said to Rex, I've got this record I'm working on. Would you be able to play on it? And to my surprise, he said, yeah, he dug the stuff, and he said he'd love to. Obviously, Rex is doing Pantera, and, we were out with them in South America at the end of last year, and it was massive. It was just so exciting to see that, out, and 80,000 people just going nuts. I mean, the floor was moving. It was unbelievable. So So obviously he's doing that, but to have Rex and Scott on the record was just fantastic. And then obviously as the band evolved into a touring entity, getting Christopher and Dave also was incredibly fortunate. You know, again, I feel kind of blessed to have all these people connected with the band, and makes me raise my game as a guitar player. So yeah, it's great.
Definitely. And tell me about your musical chemistry with Ronnie, because I feel like, the lead vocalist of the band and the lead guitarist, that they're so crucial. So tell me, how you guys work together.
Yeah, we fight all the time, like good guitar players and singers do. No, we don't. I'm joking. But no, you're right. You're absolutely right. It's crucial, really. And Ronnie, when I called up Ronnie, obviously we're aware of Ronnie's history, and I thought Ronnie was, as soon as Ronnie came into the conversation, it was a no-brainer for me that Ronnie hopefully was the guy that could do this, because Ronnie's history, Ronnie's legacy, and the bands that he'd worked with were legacy bands as well. But Ronnie was a singer in the modern age. He's a modern singer, but he's got that history and that legacy that we all have in the band as well. So it was a perfect fit. I was hoping that he'd say yes, and he said yes, and he totally got it. And he was saying the same thing, Rainbow. He works with Rainbow and bands like Michael Schenker, and he was saying the same thing. These guys aren't going to be around forever, and who's going to be around to carry the torch of those legends when they're gone? And it was the same kind of mindset, and he not only was he the perfect voice, but the perfect mindset as well. So and he's a cool guy too. He's a great guy. He's perfect to front a band like that.
Awesome. So tell me, what are you most excited about when you think about that May 26th date when Horns for a Halo actually comes out?
Oh, I can't wait for the internet to get it and shred it, into pieces. No, the most exciting thing for me is that the people decide. You know what I mean? You can put a record out and you can put everything into it, or you can whatever we think as a band becomes irrelevant. It becomes the people's thing. You know what I mean? It becomes their song or their message. Or if we write a song and we put it out and this is what it means, it becomes their meaning. The way that the listener attaches to a certain song, and that's what it becomes about. And that's an incredibly what's the word? I mean, it's a privileged position to be in, to just have people listen to your music and potentially become attached to it. That's an incredibly privileged position to be in, just to have people listen to your music these days. I understand there's millions of people out there making music and putting it out, and I understand that a big part of why people are listening to our music is because of the bands that we're in, and we're grateful for that. And just to have that chance for people to listen to it and potentially become attached to it, and they put it on in the car, or they come to a gig and it becomes part of their day, is a massive thing. So that's what I'm looking forward to, really, and playing live shows after that and having people sing the songs with us like they do with Priest. You write a song with Priest and they're down the front row with their horns in the air singing songs that you've written, and it's a I keep saying it, but it's a privileged position, but it's a massive thing to be part of someone's day like that, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, do you feel like now, with the fact that everyone can release music, I mean, literally you can just like put whatever you want out there on Spotify and all that stuff. Do you think it's a good thing, that musicians are able to do that and kind of like there are no gatekeepers, or does it make it way more difficult for people like, you and people who are, have been out there a long time, having all of this stuff to, I guess, compete against, or noise out there?
I think it's always been difficult. I think you've always had to be different, or one cut above, or unique, or great at what you do, or whatever it may be. You've always had to be something. You've always had to be on top of your game, or whatever it is. And it's no different today. I think back in the day there wasn't the outlet that there is today, so you had to be phenomenal at what you did to be heard. Nowadays, it's almost the other way around. Everyone's got the outlet. Me and you could put a record together and release it tomorrow. But so could the people down the street. They could do the same thing. So we have to make sure that our stuff is a cut above, and that's no different to what it was, back in the 60s or the 70s or whenever it was. So in a sense, it's the same dynamic. You still have to be on top of your game. So it's obviously a different landscape today, but there are elements of it which have, in my opinion, remain the same. So we try and do stuff that's slightly different, but you've got to be who you are as well. It's I'm a 43-year-old guy who got brought up in the 1980s, and so all those influences are in there. You just got to be who you are, do it to the best of your ability. But that's always been the same. So yeah, it's just going to be interesting to see how it's perceived when it comes out. I think coming from Priest personally, people are going to maybe expect a Priest link in there somewhere, and they might hear that. Some people might not. So again, it will be interesting to hear what people's perception of it is.
So do you feel like Elegant Weapons is kind of, your post-Priest band for whenever that happens? Do you feel like this could become your main gig? Or I know that you always have other stuff in the works too.
Well, I think so. It was never anything. It's not anything experimental. It's it kind of came. I'm writing stuff that is organic and comes from the heart, so to speak. So I don't see why it wouldn't be something that carries on after Priest. It's not like an experimental synth pop record that I've put on a different hat for. It's there's Black Sabbath, Thin Lizzy, UFO, Priest, Metallica, Black Label Society, Alice in Chains. It's all that stuff in there, So it's a natural kind of all those natural influences. So I don't see why it couldn't carry on. And I kind of, it hasn't ever been any other thought process really. It's kind of been, as I said before, thinking about that conversation with Glenn Tipton about what happens after Priest. It's kind of been that really, and this was kind of a natural. This is what it could be for sure. So yeah, and as I said before, if it changes or evolves or the characters in the band bring different elements out, then so be it. But this is the kind of mindset. Yeah, this could carry on for me after Priest.
I definitely see that. So everyone is so happy to see you doing well health-wise. And I'm wondering, how did your health scare change you or your outlook on life? If it did, I'm assuming it did.
Well, it's been an overwhelming response really from the fans and friends in the industry and obviously family and stuff. But it was overwhelming. Everyone reaching out and sending videos of get well wishes and stuff like that. It was the support was overwhelming. But I think without being morbid or dramatic, it could all end tomorrow. It could all end, because as far as I was aware, I was healthy and fit, and I ate well, didn't drink too much, I didn't smoke any of that stuff, and it was almost over. So thinking about that, I feel healthy today. So it could all end tomorrow. So without being dramatic about it, get your stuff done, what you want to do what you want to do, and live your life. You know what I mean? And kind of use that as a motivating force in your life, because you never know, obviously. And I can truly say that it was it came close there for a while. So if you've got a record you want to record, or if you've got a book you want to write, do it. And there's other motivating factors in your life, obviously, but that's definitely a real one. You never know what's around the corner, so do it and do it well.
That's a great point. Yeah, seize the moment, and no one knows how much time they have. So yeah, if there's something that you've been wanting to do or whatnot, I see where it would make you just, I don't want to live life more.
Definitely, and it's nothing new. It's not a new philosophy by any means, but it's definitely one that I can relate to a bit differently now. So yeah, definitely makes you think. We aren't around forever, and sometimes it's a lot shorter than we think. So get off your ass and do what you want to do, you know?
Yeah, definitely. When I first saw that you launched Elegant Weapons, part of me was like, oh, I wonder if like, now that you're healthy again, if you're feeling like, oh, I want to do all these, different things that I had been saving up to do.
Well, I'd started it before the incident. But when I came through the other side of it, it definitely, I had to finish it. So, I called management and I said, I feel like I can finish it and I want to finish it. And it was like a medicine. Music, I was back on the guitar within maybe a week, and at least trying to play again. And it was a motivator, as I said before, like a focus. And the Elegant Weapons record was a focus. To finish it, we got back out on the road with Priest a few months after, and again, a few people said it was too soon, but the doctors were fine with it. And it was a focus for me. It was a medicine to get back out, to get back on the horse, to get back to who I am, without sounding too cosmic about it. But that's get back to normal life, and it sort of focuses you and motivates you. And it really was a medicine. The guitar, music, Priest, Elegant Weapons. It was a medicine to get back to 100%. So it really helped.
I also wondered, because you of course are in a little band called Judas Priest. What is the latest on new music with Priest?
It's almost done. I haven't got any. I can't give any release dates. We haven't got any, but I think we've got some vocals to do, and then we've got to do stuff like we've got to mix it and master it, and then we've got to do stuff like artwork and packaging, and then it's the vinyl stuff. I know vinyl takes a little bit of time these days to actually make the stuff. So I'm not sure, but as far as the recording process, I think it's just vocals that need to be done, and then to finish, they've been started, but they need to be finished, and then the mixing process, and then it's basically the manufacturing process after that. But it's sounding great. I was in Phoenix with Andy Sneap and Rob a few weeks ago, putting the vocals down, and it's always exciting to hear new Priest tracks, because they become Priest tracks when Rob sings them. And it's like the world hasn't heard them yet, but like there's new Priest tracks that we're hearing for the first time. It's really exciting hearing that characteristic voice that we've heard for decades singing new stuff. And it's an incredibly exciting thing. So I can't wait for the world to hear it all.
Yeah, no, that is exciting. Is there anything you can tell us about like the direction or, the sound, the style, anything different?
Yeah, there's definitely a few more twists and turns on this record. There's a few more musical parts. So there might be, a bit of a, as I said, the twists and turns. I've used the word progressive before, and the internet ripped me a new arsehole, but it is, progressive in the sense that it's not like verse, chorus, solo, chorus, finish. It's, musical part, verse, musical part. It might do a few twists and turns musically. It veers from the path a bit like the Sinner or Tyrant or something like that. So it's a bit more 70s Priest, which I welcome as a guitar player. So yeah, it's every Priest album has kind of stood on its own stylistically. It's had that DNA of Judas Priest because the characters are so strong. But it's always been a little bit different, but retaining that DNA but having its own character. So this one's no different, really, in the sense that it's obviously Judas Priest, but it's its own animal. It stands on its own two legs.
Wow, 70s Priest. Okay, now I'm extra excited. So I love it.
Well, 70s Priest, but it's not a retro album by any means. It's the influence of 70s Priest in the progressive sense, but it sounds like Priest in 2023.
Yes. Definitely.
So don't get too excited. Is what I'm trying to say.
No. Sorry, I'm still going to get excited. I know that Andy, your producer, he always has a really good way of bringing any kind of music into like the modern age, any of that classic metal?
Well, yeah, that's why I chose him for this band as well. Really, I mean, it was a no-brainer. I mean, I talk to Andy most days, and as far as a producer was concerned, as I said before, I'm an old guy from the '80s, and I grew up with '80s metal and '80s pop music. So this band had a retro element, but it was a band that was being a band that was releasing music in the modern age. So Andy was perfect. He's also a guy that grew up with that music, but he's a modern age producer. So he was, as you said, he's sympathetic to those music styles, but he's also aware of the way music sounds today. So he's a perfect producer for bands like that.
This is a tough one, I think, but describe what the experience of being in Judas Priest has brought to your life.
Oh, wow. Well, it nearly killed me. No, it changed my life. Right from day one. It changed my life on many levels. But mainly as a guitar player and a musician and someone in a band. It went from being a guitar player playing music to someone in a band creating experiences for fans that have been there for 40 years at the time. So you become aware of many different things, not just the songs and the notes and the way you're playing, but what you're creating in terms of experiences and the production or the albums or the live show or the set or whatever it may be. It's these fans have been there for decades, and what can we do to make the next show or the next album or the next song a great experience for them? So that's just one part of it. So it changes your whole outlook on what your role is in the machine, and that only helps you grow as a musician and a team player in a band like that. So it's a massive thing.
Thank you so much. It is so great to catch up with you. I'm happy that you're doing well and doing all these projects and just, rocking out as always.
Thank you, Anne. Good to catch up with you too.
Richie, as always, it is great to talk with you. Great to have you on the show, and you're welcome back anytime. Richie Faulkner from Judas Priest and Elegant Weapons. I'm sad now. I'm sad. If you could see me, I've got a pouty face on with my Hello Kitty headphones. I'm sad because he says Judas Priest will not be around forever, which I realize that no one's around forever. So I shouldn't be sad. I shouldn't be surprised. But yeah, I mean, it is a reality, and it's very cool that he thinks that Elegant Weapons could actually be the predecessor. I think that's the right word for Judas Priest, that they could actually kind of fill that void in his life and maybe even in the metal community, because it's just got that great pedigree of musicians and that great classic metal sound. Richie Faulkner, always great to talk with you. Just what a down-to-earth, fun guy. And yeah, I cannot wait to see what he does next with Elegant Weapons, with Judas Priest, and with everything else going on in his world. It's Anne Erickson on Audio Inc. Radio. And as always, you are amazing. You are the best. Thank you for rocking with me. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast if you don't yet. Just search Anne Erickson on Audio Inc. wherever you listen to podcasts. Hit subscribe and you'll be instantly notified of the next show featuring the biggest names in rock and metal music. And I would love to hear from you. Link up with me on social media. I am friendly. I would love to chat about music or sports. I'm a big NFL football fan and college football fan, or suggest someone for me to interview on the show. Hit me up on social media. Just head to itsmeanne.com. That's itsmeanne.com. That's itsmeanne.com to link up on all of my social media. And I would love for you to become a part of my private Patreon community. Head in there and you can have access to my private Patreon page and other fun stuff, behind the scenes stories. You get early access to episodes and stuff like that. So check that out. You'll find the link in the show description. It's patreon.com/Anne Autumn, but you'll find that link in the show description. All right. As always, great to hang out with you. Thanks for being awesome and for being a part of my life. Until next time, be safe, God bless, and we'll rock soon. It's Anne Erickson on Audio Inc. Radio.
It's Audio Inc. with Anne.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Audio Inc. Radio podcast. Subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode. Get inked online at audioinkradio.com. I'm Anne Erickson for the Audio Inc. Radio podcast.